well too, and then put this on YouTube so you get a little bit more HD quality. But this is live coaching call, showing you an example of what I do. But today we're gonna go over philosophy for peak performance. It's integrating Buddhist and Stoic principles, and I'm excited. I'm pumped because I myself. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Sam Nang Man. I'm a lifestyle and performance coach. I host the podcast, the Flow In, Flow Out podcast, where we talk a lot about philosophy, and personal development. And two of the main philosophies that I use personally, and I think it's a very balanced way of thinking, right? Philosophy itself, it's all about thinking, right? There's no like real set rules on how to think or anything. It's just a way of to think and understand and get more out of yourself. So we're gonna talk about Buddhist philosophy and Stoic philosophy, right? Kind of like the East versus like West kind of combined together so you could have a balanced way of thinking. And why, we always start off with why. What do you guys think? I mean, I think the most important thing is to that I think society is missing is the ability to think independently because we got a lot of stuff going on. We got media, social media, you got politics, you got sports, you got different agendas and stuff. And now, how do you navigate yourself, right? Your personal development journey, your shadow work, your therapy, your spiritual practice. How do you cultivate this when there's a lot of noise going on? And for me, I found out the best way to really get into this is using philosophy. And philosophy for me is just a way to think. There is no set better way or perfect way to think. It's just a process of thinking and making it better. So if you guys are watching, and hopefully you guys get something from this coaching call, is really the process of philosophy is just to help you think better in a world where there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of distractions and stuff, and to really navigate and get centered in who you are and what you want to think, right? And the two philosophers that I'm going to be teaching today is Buddhism, right? And I want to talk about Buddhism a little bit because people kind of mix religion and spirituality together. And philosophy is kind of a way to tie things together. Religion is kind of like a set practice where you have to like follow things. Like if you were to go to Buddhist monk, that practice that they do every day at the ashram, I think that's what they call it, like the everyday where they actually do it religiously over and over and over, part of the practice, that's the religion part. But there's a part where you could understand what they're teaching, right? Part of me as a philosopher, I studied it and learned it and practiced it myself so I could teach it, right? Monks, right? If you were to be a monk, that would be kind of fall into the religious practice. And if you wanted to get more into spirituality and trying to figure out like who you are, do more introspective work, that's where you get into Buddha or the philosophy. So and then you have Stoicism. So Eastern philosophy is very like detachment, be at peace, kind of just be okay with everything. And then you have Stoicism, right, which is we all have responsibilities. I have responsibilities. I can't sit and meditate and journal and do therapy all day. I cannot. I have to have another side of me where I keep it balanced, where I can navigate things, where I'm actually building things and accomplishing goals, right? So it's a balance between detachment and achieving and trying to get these goals and learning how to just accept things, right? So those are like, for me, just the main understanding of how Eastern and Western philosophy works. And you can use this. It's very a balanced way of thinking. Like if you trying to achieve something, and as you know, like if you're an entrepreneur or sales, if you're too pushy, if you're too much, if you're too attached to something, that thing that you're chasing typically runs away. It gets away, right? So it's a fine art of combining both these two philosophies, these principles. So Buddhism is a practice for cultivating mindfulness and presence, right? And there's some Stoic techniques that we're going to talk about to help maintain focus and clarity. All right. So let's get into, actually, let me talk about the two main philosophers that I like Marcus Aurelius. So Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor and he was a Stoic philosopher. He's best known for his work called Meditations, right? That's why it's actually his journal entries. So journaling is actually a very Stoic practice, writing down your thoughts, right? And it doesn't have to be you don't have to be judgmental, but Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest nation at the time, right? And he, as a leader, as an emperor, represented what virtue, morality, and everything, because he had the ability to get all this. He had the ability to be evil, to use his powers for bad, but he chose to use it for good, and had like a virtual code and built the thing. So a lot of his studies and teachings resonates now because it helps how to build like a virtual code or something for yourself. And then we got Siddhartha Gautama. So Siddhartha was a prince. He had a lot of money. He was born into royalty, and the story of Siddhartha was that he was born into royalty, but he was kind of like sheltered into like his palace and everything, and his parents and his family didn't want him to see suffering. But one day he went out the kingdom and started seeing suffering, and that's what we're starting to recognize now when we start to get more conscious about things. When you were a kid, you didn't start to understand what emotion and consciousness and pain and suffering is, but Siddhartha realized that at an early age and tried to figure that out to help everybody. So what he did when he went out and to the palace, he saw suffering. He saw people dying with disease, emotional pain, all that, man, tough. And then it hit him. It was like he had to become this spiritual teacher, and his family didn't want him to do it, but they knew that it was his path. He also knew it was his path, right? So some of you guys have your own spiritual path. He chose that. He didn't chose that path. That path was kind of like almost chosen for him, but he was just very intuitive with it. So he went back and left. He told everybody, and everybody was very sad and everything, but he stepped away, right? Just like sometimes we have to go through like a spiritual practice, you have to kind of step away from the noise a little bit and kind of discover yourself. So that's what Siddhartha did. He went on his spiritual journey practice, and it's really, like, he was born in Nepal, and he studied with other teachers, other spiritual teachers, some aesthetics and everything, and he searched and searched, and then one day he found nirvana, and nirvana basically is just enlightenment, right? The release of the pain, the understanding of the suffering and everything. So that's the story of the Buddha. So I hope you understand it, and we'll talk about the importance of it, because he went and suffered for the understanding and gained this insight and this wisdom, and he shares it. As I'm a philosopher, I want to share my insight as well too. So it's kind of just developed here, and there's been like a resurgence of it because of like some coaches and everything. And so the main tenets of Stoicism, and I'll read it for you guys, is the virtue is the highest good. Okay, focus on what can be controlled. Amor fati, which is basically accepting your fate. Living in accordance with nature. Developing inner resilience. Practicing mindfulness and reflection. Social responsibility. Indifference to external good. Right. Let's talk about my favorite one. It's amor fati, accepting your fate, right? Your fate, right? When Marcus Aurelius, his meditations is basically him meditating on himself and what will happen after, like, he dies, right? So it is a very dark philosophical way for you to go inside and start to learn more about yourself, but meditating on your faith, right? Because at the end of the day, if you try to control everything in your life, it becomes very hard, right? So it's really just learning to accept the fate that's going to happen to you, and just accept it, right? Because the more we fight against nature, the more we fight against change, the more pain arises, right? So what you want to do is just focus on what can be controlled. And the only thing that's why we do personal development. That's why we study philosophy, is we focus on what can be controlled. And what can be controlled, right? A lot of you guys like external things versus looking internal. The internal, you could actually control a lot of your emotions, a lot of your day-to-day interactions by doing reflective, introspective personal development work, because you have to deal with people every day. You have to be focused on what you can control, and that's you, is your perception of the outside world. And you have this practice that people are going to be people. Human nature is human nature, right? It doesn't change. You, as the person that's in nature, have to navigate and learn how to navigate what's inside it, right? And one of the tenets is virtue is the highest good. And like virtues and values, they're very similar. A lot of people don't live with virtues and values. And if you go into like my website, samnangman.com, I have some values that I really like hold true to myself, and I'm gonna go over some of the values that Stoicism have: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Right, wisdom. Right, wisdom resonates with people because it's not just knowledge; it's about like helping each other. And then courage, we talk a lot about courage as well too, like public speaking or doing something that's uncomfortable. You have, if there's fear, if there's fear of you stepping into the unknown, if you're changing your career, if you're committing to a new relationship, if you're making like serious life changes and stuff, you have to have courage to be able to do this, because it's scary to do new things. It's scary to do things that are outside of your comfort zone, right? In the natural order, including the inevitable change and impermanence, right? So what is that, right? Life is constantly changing. Like if you look at a plant, you look at like Eastern philosophy, you study a lot of like nature. A plant is always growing. It's either growing or it's dying, right? And part of personal development, part of like learning, part of studying philosophy, doing like the personal development work, you are actively growing yourself. You are actively changing yourself to what you want to be at the end of your life, right? So you're growing as in accordance with nature. If you're not growing, you're eventually dying. So if you're starting to feel emotional pains and different disease come up, is there's something internal that you haven't looked at. And using some Eastern philosophy, is that you have to find what those illnesses. And then another practice of Stoicism is mindfulness and reflection. So Buddhism and Stoicism really, they're similar in different aspects, right? Mindfulness and reflection. You go interact day to day with people that you work with, right? Your spouse, your kids, business partners, other entrepreneurs. You have to have some type of reflection of like how you interact with these people, and how you come back and like reflect. Did you interact the way that you want to interact with, right? It's just a practice of self-reflection. And it's a way, a lot of us feel a lot of guilt in how we act and how we treat people, because that's our therapy, that's our shadow work. And the quality of our lives is going to depend a lot on our relationships. So if you don't take time out of your day to do this personal development work and this type of reflection on how you interact with people, your relationships with people are going to suffer. And I don't know about you guys, right? People that have bad relationships with their spouse, their kids, their business partners, or whatever, they have a pretty bad life, right? Shitty, right? You want to make sure that you understand relationships, your social responsibility to people, right? You're here on earth to help other people succeed and support them as well too. And if you don't have that moral compass, you're not gonna get that, right? So you might be wondering like, how do you, put karma in the air? That's it. You have the social responsibility to contribute and to give back to communities and be of service. And then indifference to external goods. This is kind of just like accepting good or bad, right? Before, and I'll just give you guys an example, is like I would see a lot of success in certain areas of my life, whether it be like my business, making money, and I would celebrate and celebrate. But then when those lows happen, you will get really down. But you just have to expect that there's lows and highs, and if you can navigate your emotions and stay within that kind of centered place, you can navigate around life and work a lot easier because you have the ability to think, okay, in different ways. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I'm getting very philosophical in my philosophical speech. So the Noble Eightfold Path is that second part of Buddhism, and what it is, it's a practice, right? Some people could say it's a therapy, but you could say it's a practice, right? Something that if you meditate, sometimes I just sit in the chair and just think, and I journal. If you journal, if you walk, if you work out, if you do yoga, if you do journaling, walking meditation, right? This is a part of time where like you have to have some kind of framework of how you think. And the Noble Eightfold Path is a way for you to kind of discover some of those pain points, right? They call them illnesses and everything, but they're just pain points. When you start to figure out and start to work on your pain points, guess what happens, guys? Your pain points go away. And most of you guys don't acknowledge that there's pain points that you have developed, right? Nobody has developed it. You developed it because of the perception of what has going on in the physical world, right? So you have to go inside and do this type of work, right? This introspective work. So we're going to talk about the Noble Eightfold Path. Number one is right understanding, okay? Number two is right intention. Number three, right speech. Number four is right action. Number five is right livelihood. Number six is right effort. Number seven is right mindfulness. Number eight is right concentration. These are very simple, like words. Very simple, guys, but they're very profound when you start doing the introspective work. And let me talk about, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but maybe just give you a brief summary of what my interpretation is. So all this is 8 different rules, right? Rules don't even have to be followed. It's just a framework of just understanding, right? The first one is probably, I think, the most important one. And when I started studying Buddhism, started incorporating this philosophy into my life, this was the main one that I use, right understanding. And the right understanding is understanding that things are all impermanent and they're all interconnected in life, right? When they say interconnected, that means we're all connected, right? So somebody, especially when it comes to like interacting with people and understanding people, is that we all have a viewpoint. It's not right, it's not wrong, right? Most of you guys go and navigate life looking at politics and looking at different people, and if they don't agree with your worldview, you shut them out, right? But you can't do that, right? If you're trying to understand the world and you're trying to understand yourself and how you fall into the universe, you have to understand how people operate and how people think, right? Because, or starting for yourself, once you start to understand yourself, you start to understand other people's pain point, and then you become more empathetic, then you become better, then you become better in your relationships, then you become better in your business stuff because you become more empathetic, you become more understanding. And I've used this philosophy in everything that I've done when I, as I grew up, is that I'm not the only person here on earth. There's other people. There's different religions, there's different people that live in different places, there's people that have different experience, and there's a part of people that don't have a practice of understanding this, that other people have different viewpoints, other people have different worldviews, and we could all learn from them and we could all help each other in certain aspects, right? To help each other, right? That is the highest six human needs for fulfillment is contribution, to give back, to give significance and everything. So that's understanding yourself. When you understand yourself, you understand other people as well too. So you understand the needs, you understand their pain points. All right, so the next thing is right intention. Right intention, guys. When you talk about morning journaling and then just like hanging out or like doing personal development work, you're intentionally going in that right direction. Most of us don't have a right intention. When I ask people, I was like, what are you intending to do? It's some people have clarity, right? Some people have an idea, right? The more clear you are on your intention, the more easier is to navigate your life, because you wake up with a sense of purpose. You have a direction in life, and that's what an intention is. And then next thing is right speech. And this is something that I'm practicing. I'm not trying to say the F word too much. No, I'm just kidding. So right speech is this. It's just not doing or saying anything that doesn't help. Like gossiping, trash talking, hating, that is the modern way of right speech, right? You could hate. There's people that hate, but hating doesn't do anything. It only hinders the person that is hating, because they don't do anything. They don't grow, right? The people that are practicing right speech, that are helping other people, that are doing like personal development work, you try to make things better, they're gonna be more successful, right? Versus the people that are just hanging out, gossiping, trash talking, hating, right? Doesn't go fucking anywhere, right? So the next thing is right action. Right action towards your therapy, right? So your therapy, for me, is working out, journaling, meditating, speeches, live coaching calls. That goes towards my personal development, and it gives back to our community, and that's fulfilling your purpose, right, through the path. And then right livelihood. So right livelihood is like how you work. Your morals cannot and your work cannot contradict. There's another example that's I'll share with you guys. It was from my podcast from my best friend Dean Bakari, and when he was doing a lot of like self reflection, if you watching his one of our clips, he talks about how he was selling cigarettes, and he was getting to personal development and spiritual work. That was contradictory to his livelihood, caused him a lot of pain, right? So some of you guys might have jobs or things that might contradict what you want internally, right? I won't get too much into that, but that livelihood is your career, and it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be a personal development coach or a life coach to do anything, but as long as it's going towards and supporting like what you want out of life, right? If you're an asshole at work and you don't want to be an asshole, right effort. Oh, this is a good one. I like this one, right effort, guys, because right effort in personal development and like your therapy has to improve. Sometimes we don't have the right effort to improve. And we could go to the gym every day, right, for 3 to 4 months, but if there's no progress, there's no right effort put in. And me as a coach, when I see people, they do the same thing over and over and over, I want to say, hey, look, you're not putting the right amount of effort in. When you put the right amount of effort in, that's when you make progress on your development, on your spiritual path, right? So if spirituality is something that you're trying to improve on, you want to put the right amount of effort in. In spirituality, a lot of the things that people struggle with is this detachment of self, right? When you get into the spiritual world, you have to detach from yourself, right? You talk about like the ego a lot, and a lot of people struggle with that. When people struggle with detachment and they can't get the introspective work and still continue to get stuck in the same patterns and haven't made any change, is because you haven't put the right amount of effort. You haven't meditated enough, you haven't journaled enough, you haven't talked enough to people to change your perspective, your worldview, right? And once you change that, that's when it starts to shift. But A lot of times people don't put the right effort in because, one, it's hard. Change is hard, right? If everybody's seeing the same thing. But then there's the ones that have done it and see it and could guide you on it. And it involves putting the right amount of effort, the right amount of work into it. And it's the same with the gym. You go into the gym and don't put a right amount of effort, you won't see progress, and then you'll be pissed off and you'll still have the same pain points that you had 3 or 4 months before it. So that's the idea. You want to put the right amount of effort in to get the benefit to make the progress. Next thing is right mindfulness, right? So mindfulness practice observing your thoughts, your feelings, and sensations, because I don't know about you guys, as adults, we go through all these emotions: sadness, anxiety, anger, frustration. You go to happy, you could go gratitude, you could go into like victimization, like these emotions and everything. And you have to be very mindful of this, because if you get so caught up in these being in these emotions and stuff, you could become this emotion. And that's what causes a lot of like illnesses and sickness, like sadness. And I talk about this a lot, like as I went through my own depression, I didn't identify as a depressed person. I would always say, hey, look, I'm just in the season of sadness. And it's okay to be sad. Just like in the springtime, you have a lot of rain. 3 to 4 months of possibly rain, right? You might be going through a season of life where you're going through something like this. And it could be a season, it could be a year. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. For me, it was probably like 3 years. So, but understand that it's just a season of life, and you don't want to identify so much with this feeling. If you continue to identify with this, right? This is why we do mindfulness practice. You continue and identify as somebody that has ADHD, somebody that has depression. You will become that, right? The right mindfulness, that practice means to really just understand that emotion that you are feeling at that season of life, that is just a feeling, right? We are human beings having a being experience, right? You're being sad. You might be unfocused, right? But you are not an unfocused person. You're not a depressed person. You might be feeling this. So that's one of the big things, the big takeaways. Like if you listen to this talk, that's what I want to hopefully you take away from. And then we got right concentration and developing meditation and practice of focus, right? You want to concentrate and you want to achieve anything significant in your life, right? Not just getting stuck in the rat race and doing the same thing. If you want to do something significant that has meaning, that has purpose, that has contribution, you have to concentrate on this, right? You have to do deep work. Unless like you do the deep work, you're not gonna get this, right? You're not gonna get contribution. The Eightfold Path and Buddhism for peak performance. And let me summarize this because that was a lot, right? I'm sure it was a lot, but a lot of ways to think and about philosophy. So take it as one of my favorite philosophers. His name is Bruce Lee. I'm not sure if you guys know who he is, but he's one of my favorite philosophers. Is absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. Right? That is one of my favorite quotes from Bruce Lee, and he's a philosopher as well too. Right? So Buddhism and Stoicism, it's just a way to think. The only thing that could be better is that you think better, right? So when I talk about it and stuff, philosophy is just a way to think better, to be more introspective, more understanding of yourself, and more understanding of different worldviews. And now, how does that tie into your personal and professional life? It's actually pretty important, and that's the reason why like we want to end this. It's like, why is it important to study philosophy, right? Because you have to navigate through these things, and it's pretty hard, right? We have a lot of challenges. I have 2 kids, single father, I have a business, an entrepreneur, trying to be successful, trying to contribute back to my community and everything. So we have to have like a why and a reason of why we do these things, and having a way to think of cleaning out your thoughts and cleaning and like helping and contributing back. Bruce Lee philosophy. The Bruce Lee philosophy is absorb what is useful and discard what is useless and add what is specifically your own. And this is the process of individualization, self-actualization, right? Take what you liked. I said a lot of things, a lot of examples and stuff. It might be over too much, but there's some stuff. Discard what is useless. And this is I've studied from different teachers, different mentors, coaches, spiritual teachers. Not everything resonates. Not everything at the present moment I need to connect with. I need to completely believe. But if you have this process of continuous thinking, continuous learning, as you learn, as you grow, different things will resonate at different times. And then add what is specifically your own, right? This is what is an individual process. When you become an individual, you become authentic, right? You learn how to navigate life from your own worldview, right? Not from other people's worldview. That's what creates authenticity. This is what creates credibility. This is what creates trust, is because you're being an honest person. And I've struggled. I've been authentic with everybody. I've been real with people, and that's why the message resonates. Is because I added my personal twist to my personal development, my podcast, my entrepreneurship journey, and everything. And I know it's not perfect, but that is the coaching call for today. Hope you guys got something. Hopefully, it helps you in how to navigate life. And that's it. You guys have any questions? I appreciate you guys out there. There was a lot of people that tuned in on Instagram here. And we got a few people here on Facebook. But yes. Thank you guys for anything. You guys need me, personal development, philosophy. Please let me know. All right.